I use this exact weekly routine to go from throwing 78 miles an hour to 96 miles an hour in 16 months. And this led to me getting an offer from my dream Division I school, which was Stanford, and also signing a 7-figure contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, this routine was created after tens of thousands of dollars that I spent into the best facilities in the world and doing hundreds of hours of research. And today I'm gonna break down each day in excruciating detail. I'm also gonna explain how one of our athletes in the Pitcher Lab used this exact schedule to gain 10 miles an hour in 6 months. So if you're interested about that, stick around to the end. Monday, we're diving into a really big day to start off the week, and we are starting off with some high CNS type throwing. When I was 16, throwing 78 miles an hour, my biggest focus was velocity development, right? And so I went on a plan, a weekly routine that was heavily focused on velocity development. And so what this looked like on Monday was that I did a high CNS throwing day. And so when I was doing a full velocity program, this was a plyo velo day, okay? And so what a plyo velo is you probably already know what plyo balls are, right? You probably use them to warm up and do drills and stuff like that. But with the plyo velo, we're actually doing a bunch of drills at a max effort level, okay? And so when I was doing these, you know, I did some of the most basic exercises, but for example, I would start off with like a roll-in, okay? I would walk in and then throw. I would do a rocker throw where I'm rocking back and forth, and then I'm throwing. I would do something like a drop step throw. It was more like a pickoff, and then I might do like a delivery throw just out of my delivery. And I'm recording the velocity of each one, okay? And every single week I'm trying to beat my previous record. So for example, if I, out of my delivery with my yellow ball, I hit 85 one week. Then the next time I come back, I'm trying to hit 86, 87 miles an hour, right? And this repeats for every single ball that you throw. So when I was doing it, I would throw the blue, red, yellow, and gray driveline plyo balls. And so you have like 4 chances to beat your personal record, which was fun. And that was what was fun with the plyo velo, okay? And when I was throwing really slow, I just went off the flat ground, okay? I really think that developing a good foundation on the flat ground was what really helped me gain velocity down the line. With a lot of this stuff nowadays, everyone does the plyos off the mound, and I think that's awesome because that's where we're actually gonna throw, right? But for myself, what worked was being able to throw really hard off a flat ground, because what that taught me was it taught me how to really generate momentum without having a slope, right? Having the slope, you can kind of cheat a little bit and you can gain a lot of momentum without, the back leg doing much, right? But with the flat ground, you really need to generate all that momentum to be able to throw hard. And so that's why I did flat ground to start off with. And as I started to throw harder, I started to progress on the mound because I want to get used to the mound. And as I got closer to playing games, then, I was off the mound. But for the most part, when I was going from 78 to 96 miles an hour, this was what I did. This was like my bread and butter, like plyo velo Mondays. And this was, done at high intent. Like I would make sure that I was primed, right? I was ready to go, and I would warm up, and I was able to throw at my maximal effort, okay? So this was what I did, and then right after it was when I did more of a high CNS type lift. Now what this means is, again, high CNS just pretty much means like very high efforts, okay? And so when I was throwing 78, I was a skinny kid weighing about 150 pounds, and I had to gain a lot of strength and muscle quickly, right? And so at the beginning of my journey, my high CNS lifting looked a lot like, just like traditional strength building programs, because that's what I needed. I needed to build strength. Like you don't need fancy programs to build strength. If I remember correctly, I followed the 5x5 program, where you literally just go 5 sets of 5, right? And then if you're able to complete it, then you increase the weight next session. And you just keep going until you can't. When you can't, you take a break and then you try to go again, right? And so that's how simple it was, and that built a really good strength base for me. Now, what I want to note is that these high CNS throwing and lifting have to be on the same day. And I'll explain this in a little bit later in the video, but when you throw hard, you also want to lift hard. Okay, you definitely don't want to be throwing hard on a Monday and lift hard on a Tuesday. And I'll explain why in a second. But this is pretty much what I did. A plyo velo, right, where I'm radaring everything, and then I'm doing a high CNS type lift, which was progressive overload for a lot of the time. As I got stronger, I started to incorporate more rate of force development, speed type training. And just in context, like how this looks right now for myself, I already throw pretty hard. And so instead of like a plyo velo, I'm just doing like mound work. Okay, and so it's more mechanical focused. And so it's still high CNS, it's like 90% plus, but I'm on the mound, right? And so it really depends on what stage of development you're in. If you're really early, then you might just need to go on a traditional velo phase and really hammer that, because that's what's gonna build a really good foundation, right? But if you're like mid 90s plus, I wouldn't start doing more plyo velos and think that you're gonna get to 100, because honestly at that point, like the amount of stress that you're putting is very high, right? When you're throwing at such a high velocity. But this is a good general structure of like Monday, we're gonna come in, we're gonna get some high CNS work done, whatever that might be for you and what stage you're at in your development. And if you're not sure what type of high CNS throwing and lifting you should be doing, you can always book a call below with any type of questions. Now, Tuesday is when, we went through high CNS, we really stressed the body. Tuesday is when we can just chill, okay? And this is a recovery day. The biggest mistake that you can do on a Tuesday after you did high CNS type stuff is to go hard at anything, right? Once you do some high CNS type stuff and you train really hard, the next day you need to recover really hard. Okay, and so the biggest mistake that you can make is do a high CNS type throwing day, and then you're like, oh, I'm tired, so I'm just gonna lift tomorrow. And then you do a high CNS type lift the next day. At that point, you're not giving yourself any time to recover. And so you wanna train really hard and stack all the stress on one day. And for us, we're gonna do it on a Monday. And then the next day, we just need to recover, okay? And the type of stuff that I did to recover was Tuesdays were a soft tissue focus for me. So what this meant was, if you have someone who can do soft tissue for you, then I would do that on this day. I didn't have the luxury of that, and so I just rolled out on a foam roller or a lacrosse ball and try to get my soft tissue done that way. But that's what I'll do on a Tuesday. And also, this is kind of dependent, but I would get some throwing in, because if you throw really lightly and you can get the blood flowing to your arm, you can recover a lot quicker. And so this is like less than 50%. Honestly, it might be more like 30-40% effort is what I would want to see on a Tuesday, because like we stressed ourselves out, right, on a Monday. Now we just need to recover, give ourselves a rest. Like just get the blood flowing somehow. Another way to really get a good amount of rest is just active recovery, okay? And what this means is like, okay, just go for a walk, or, maybe play a different sport, not like spike ball or pickleball where you're like, really hitting the ball and using your arm. But I don't know, like go play soccer or something. Just make yourself move around and really get the blood flowing. Swimming is one of my favorite ones. That's something that I actually did today. It's a Tuesday and I went out and swam, right, in my apartment. So that's what I would do on a Tuesday. And so I'm just gonna have this going. So this is high stress. Now this is low stress, okay? Now I'll explain what these arrows are as we go on. But again, the biggest mistake is if you go high effort here, you need to relax, right? You gotta recover. Like I know as an ambitious young man who's watching this, you wanna work hard every single day, right? But on a recovery day, working hard means recovering. It doesn't mean putting your body in more stress and putting more workload on your body. It means recovering. And sometimes recovering sucks, right? Because you're like antsy to, oh dude, I need to go do something. I need to go lift. And I talk to college guys all the time. They're like, yeah, man, like, I lift 5-6 times a week and I just don't know why I'm throwing harder. And it's like, dude, you're not giving yourself any time to recover. Like recovery, as cliche as it sounds, right? Like recovery is so important, and that's where a lot of the gains come in. If you start, stacking high CNS days, that's when injuries occur, right? Because you're just under recovered and you're not giving your body any time to recover. But anyway, right here. So this is like a 90% plus day. This is a 50% or lower day. Okay, this is less than 50%. Now we go on to Wednesday, which is a medium CNS day. So basically, if this is a 90% plus, this is a less than 50%. This one, I like to have it about 60 to 70%. Because, after we stress our bodies a lot, we don't want to go straight back into a lot of stress, because that's still just not enough time for us to continue to recover, right? You'll be surprised at how much stress this puts on your body. And as you get older, you'll really start to feel it. But here, we still want to get a lot of work done, but we don't want to completely fry our system like we did on Monday. Okay, and so this is more of a 60 to 70% day. And what I used to do, which I really, really liked, was just stretch it out in long toss. Okay, this is a really great way to just stretch it out, because like long toss, yeah, you can go max effort, but a lot of the time you're not throwing at the kind of velocity that you'll be throwing on a high CNS day. And so it's more of just a relaxed long toss day, really get the arm moving. And that's what I did very commonly when I was going from 78 to 96 miles an hour. Right now, what I do is just a lighter day, lighter mound day. Okay, it might be more of a mechanical focus day. And so this 60 to 70% allows you to get a lot of work done. If you're less than 50%, it's very hard to keep your mechanics in check and make progress. But when you're going at 60 to 70%, then you can still get a lot of work done. And so that's the purpose of this day. Now, when you're done with your throwing, and obviously don't go overboard with that, because we need to get ready for the rest of the week, right? Where we're gonna fry our system again, and I'll get into that. But it's 60 to 70%, and then we are going into also a medium CNS lift. This can be medium, it can even be high CNS. Because with the arm, like, we want to protect it, right? We don't want to fry it and under recover it. But with the lifting, we can be a little bit more aggressive with this. Like, for me, my lifts are pretty much the same between Monday and Wednesday, because I'm able to recover my legs and my muscles, right? I'm able to recover with 1 day's recovery, because I'm able to recover after 1 day of recovery. But if you're someone who still feels sore after Monday, then I'll take it a little bit lighter. And so that's how I'll do it. And if you're running more of a progressive overload type workout, and you're a little bit earlier in the phase, then I wouldn't try to push it on this day, okay? I will just keep it a little bit lighter, maybe do some more accessory work. But if you're more of a rate of force development, speed, ATP, CP system type training guy, then yeah, you can push it. Like, I'm pushing it on this day, but I'm also pushing it on this day, right? Because a lot of this stuff, you're gonna recover quickly because you're not breaking down the muscles and you're not going super heavy with your lifts. Like, our focus has kind of changed to more speed, right? And that's something that we can recover a lot quicker from. And so that's what I did on Wednesdays. It's more of a 60 to 70% day. So this is more of like in the middle. Now, moving on to Thursday. Again, this is a recovery day. So we need to chill. Again, I know it's not something you want to hear, but it is what it is. And what I did on Thursdays was more of a mobility focus. And so with these recovery days, I know you want something to do. The perfect thing to do is really to hammer soft tissue and mobility, because it's not going to stress out your body, right? It's really going to keep your body healthy, right? For mobility, I look at it more of like a health thing rather than a performance enhancement thing. Because, once you're mobile, once you have a pretty decent amount of mobility, it's not going to help you that much to throw harder. But if you have terrible mobility, it's 100% going to limit your velocity, right? Like, there was a point early this year where I had just come off back surgery, and I couldn't even touch my knees with straight legs. Like, I was like locked up here, and I was throwing, and my velo was obviously down because you need some more flexion, right? And so in that case, mobility helped my velocity a huge amount. But if you already have a good mobility base, keep doing it, because it's going to keep you healthy, and it's a perfect thing to do on like a Tuesday or a Thursday without taxing your body, right? Some other things that you can do is any type of recovery modalities, right? So Mark Pro, STEM units, all of those stuff is good stuff here. We're just trying to get the blood moving, everything like that. Again, active recovery would be perfect on a Thursday. Now, for the big day of the week, which is Friday, we are going back to a high CNS throwing day. okay? This might be, maybe we go 90% here, but here we're going 100%. This is what we've been getting ready for the whole week. Yes, we did a high CNS, but all of this is prep for our body to go as hard as we can on the Friday. Okay, and when I was on my velocity development plan, this was pull downs. This was pull downs, and this was a 110% day. I was giving it my absolute all on this day. And now, as I train to throw 100, similar thing. I'm not doing pull downs, but I'm doing mound velos, right? I'm going as hard as I can off the mound. This is what really challenges the central nervous system to fire, right? It shows you, what your progress is with your velo. Like if this keeps going up, then you know what you're doing is working. If this keeps going down, then you might be under recovered or you're just not doing the right stuff. So this is the big day that we build all of this stuff up to, okay? And this requires huge effort. And one tip for you to really get all you can out of it is prepping. And so, you might go through a warm up and it's kind of like you do arm bands and arm circles and you're good to go. No, like on these high CNS type days, I want you to go through a CNS prep. Now, what a CNS prep basically means is you're prepping your central nervous system to fire, okay? And so what I do with this is, for example, I would include overcoming isometrics, right? To really fire and really fire your body, wake it up, right? I'll do plyometrics to really get your body moving. I would also do like max effort medicine, maybe a couple max effort medicine ball throws, or really get the intensity up with my plyo balls so that I'm really ready for this. And it's not like a shock to my body, or my body isn't like ready for like the pull downs or the 100% day, right? And so that's what I would do for the throwing. Now, with the lifting side, again, this was a high CNS day. Remember when I said that you want to stack high CNS days? Well, these two are where we're going to do it. We're really going to stack the high CNS days, and we're going to get everything that we can out of these days. So if you're running a progressive overload type workout, this is where you're trying to increase the weight, right? You're trying to progressively overload on this day. If you're doing speed type stuff, rate of force development type stuff, you can do a lot more taxing stuff, right? For example, you might do a couple more sprints. Sprints are really taxing on the body, but you can stack a lot more here because this is pretty much your main day of the week, right? And so that's what I did, and that's still what I continue to do. This overall structure of the week has never really changed in my whole career, because this is what's optimal to get a lot of results out of your training, but also recover, right? I did try it once, like, okay, why not just do high CNS, low CNS? High CNS, low, high. But when you do a high in between, it just becomes a lot. And I did it for 1 week and I'm like, there's just no way I can do this. Especially if you're gonna do it properly, right? It becomes like tiring, even mentally, to really prep yourself for every second day. Like it's just a lot, right? And so twice a week is a very good frequency. And as you get to the higher levels, like for me right now, I mean, once a week is more than enough. And so I pretty much just stack everything on Fridays. Now, for the weekend, you guessed it, you're gonna have to chill again. It's another recovery day where you're doing mobility stuff, you're doing soft tissue stuff, you're doing active recovery stuff, and you can also throw at sub 50%, okay? Now, this would look something like this. And so what these arrows kind of show is a W, okay? So if we connect all of these and then it repeats, but it's more of a W. And this is how I want you to visualize it, is we're gonna stack a lot of high CNS stuff, right? A lot of workload on this day. Now we're really gonna recover. Now we can come up just a little bit to get our work in, but we don't wanna fry ourselves, and then we're gonna recover again. And then we're going to start over with the cycle, okay? And so that's the structure of the week. And so we do this because it allows for over 72 hours of recovery in between these high CNS type days, right? So that's what I like to see, is over 72 hours. Technically, you could go, Monday, Thursday, and then, maybe Sunday, and then go do that, where you go like high CNS and then you recover for 2 days, and then high CNS and recover for 2 days. But that becomes a little bit messy because you're not gonna be doing high CNS type stuff on the same day every week, right? This is why I love this so much, is because All right, Monday, it's high CNS day. Friday, all right, we're gonna go 110% today, right? And this is honestly what led me to be really, really consistent because I fell into a routine, right? And this routine was optimized for velocity development, but also recovery. And that's how I was able to really push it for 16 months, where I gained over 16 miles an hour, going from 78 to 94, 95, 96 miles an hour. And I never got injured during that time. And I attribute it all to this type of scheduling where it allowed me to recover in between sessions so that I never put myself in the risk of injury. Now, before I get into how one of our athletes at the Pitch Lab went from 82 to 92 miles an hour within 6 months of working with us, just remember, if you need help with any of this stuff, developing a complete customized plan for yourself to gain velocity, first link in the description, you can book a call with us and we'll see if it's the right fit for you. All right, so what this athlete did, right? So firstly, on a Monday, he did a pull down day. And so this was his 85 to 95% day. This athlete was already on the mound, and so the pull downs wasn't our biggest focus with him. The mound day was. And so the mound came over here, and then the pull downs were over here. All right. And so what he did specifically was he did a bunch of drills that we prescribed to him that would help his mechanical deficiencies. Okay. So firstly, he started with drop step throws. So right here, bang, throw. He also did the hover drill with the plyo balls, the KBO kick, and then the walking windup, all before he went into his pull down day, which was a 85 to 95% day. And so we're not absolutely, maxing out on these pull downs. We're just increasing the intensity just a little bit and really feeling athletic, right? And getting in that high CNS type work. After he does that, he's able to get into more of a high CNS type lift, okay? And so what we did here was, it was more of a power focused lift. And I'm not gonna go into every single exercise that he did, but basically on this day, he did the high CNS type throwing, and then he did more of a power focused lift. Now on a Tuesday, what we gave him was recovery, right? Whatever he feels that he needs for recovery. And on the throwing side, it was literally just daily plyos. So we have a circuit where you choose a couple exercises for your daily plyos, and the effort level is at about 50%, right? So this is just recovery. And if you do want to throw a baseball, we told him, only about like 20 throws, because we don't want to overthrow on this day, which would really put us in a hole for the next day. For the Wednesday, what we did was, again, it was more of a 70% day, okay, following that W that we talked about. Now this, we're doing more of a long toss focus day. He's still doing all the plyo ball drills that we prescribed him to help him with his mechanical deficiencies, but then he's also doing a long toss day where he's not gonna be going max effort, right? But he's just stretching it out and really feeling the arm, see how far he wants to go. And on the lifting side, a very similar thing where we're really developing rate of force development and power with this athlete, okay? Now, Thursday was very similar to Tuesday, just recovery. And then the Friday, which was his most important day, which was a 95 to 100% day. And we encourage 100% because we're trying to PR on this day, right? We're trying to throw really, really hard. And so for him, again, all of the plyo ball drills that are going to help him with the mechanical efficiency. And then we did a mound velo, whereas on the mound, it was pretty much a bullpen, right? A max effort bullpen. We're still trying to, throw strikes, throw off speed and everything, but it's at max intensity, because that is what mattered for this athlete, is really getting good at moving down the mound. Right? He was already good at, pulling down and everything. He didn't really need that. He already had a pretty good foundation, right? And what we saw was a huge low-hanging fruit for him was mechanics. And honestly, the biggest thing for him was the rate of force development as well. This athlete had gone through a bunch of injuries and there was a lot of guarding happening, right? And so the body didn't really want to move athletically and explosively. And so through the weight room stuff, we were able to open that up. And with the mechanics on the mound, that was what really unlocked everything, right? And so we're working on all the mechanics through here. He's working with our coaches pretty much daily. And then on Friday, it's like, okay, let's see if we've made any progress. And that's what he did. And this is what he repeated for about 4 months, right? And it just goes to show that if you're able to stack these types of weeks every single week, then you can make a massive amount of progress. For example, for myself, this was the structure that I used for about 16 months in a row. And that's how I increased 16 to 18 miles an hour in 16 months. There's a caveat though, where you're not gonna just repeat this every single week. You wanna go through cycles. So once you do this for like 3 weeks, then you will go through what's called a deload week to actually give yourself a rest, right? So you're going through this, you're trying to PR, you do 3 weeks of it, and then, you might PR on a Friday. And then on the 4th week, we're gonna give you a deload to where every single day kind of looks like this. We want your body to chill because we don't want to just keep taxing the body, especially if you're PRing, because the body has literally done something that has never done before, right? When you throw harder than you've ever thrown. And so that's a lot of stress on the body, and we want to make sure that it's recovering enough to continue to train. And so, I would do it in 4-week cycles, do this 3 times, and then deload, and then go into the next cycle. And obviously a lot of this stuff is going to shift because if you're doing the same stuff over and over and over and over, especially in the weight room and in the throwing, you're going to adapt and you're not going to make progress. And that's what we do at the Pitch Lab, is make sure that every single program is updated every month, right? So that the stimulus and the adaptations continue to keep going.